get started. We won't hold you guys back any longer. You're here on time. That is super great. We're excited. I'm here, Nick, CEO of MagLoft, and I'm joined by Toby, our CTO.
Hi, everyone.
And we also have a couple of our team members on this live show. They love to see what kind of bugs we can dig up. So they'll be documenting that. And we'll be showing off, obviously, TypeLoft, the editor. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This is the first live session we do with this software. So we're hoping that there won't be any hiccups, but there could be. And also, I expect this to take about 15, 20 minutes to kind of demo what's new in the editor. And then we can do some questions about the editor. And if you have any questions about MagLoft in general, we can also get to those. Feel free to use the little emoticon down in the bottom right corner or type your questions if you have any questions as we go along. You're also more than welcome to unmute yourself and just ask a question directly. Just go ahead and interrupt. That's perfectly fine. We always enjoy if it's a bit of a conversation rather than just a presentation. So don't be shy, or you can write your question, or you can raise your hand. We have the team looking over those, so we will get to them. Cool, so let's get started. I hope everyone hears me clearly. I hope you can see my screen. Maybe I can just get a confirmation from one of our team members that audio is good. Perfect, thank you. Cool, so this is our issue list, and I'm logged into the MagLoft account. And what I just want to show here is when you get access to TypeLoft 2, you'll be able to see these issues when you click create, and then you can choose the issue type, which is TypeLoft 2. We'll always have support for TypeLoft 1 in case you've already started doing something here, but you won't be able to load these in the new editor. So that will be the old editor and the old issues. So to create a new one, you just select TypeLoft 2 and click create. So I've already done that. We have a live session 4. So I'm just going to jump straight into the editor here. Let me just see here. I'm curious. Can I ask the people on the call here, have you tried TypeLoft 1, or have you seen our editor before, or is this the first?
I have. This is James.
Hi, James. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I will go over it quite lightly, and then we can always dive in if you have any questions. All right. So we'll focus on what's new compared to TypeLoft 1. And one of the first things that you will probably notice is that when you select an element on a page, you won't get straight to the element. You have to kind of click through to it. So that's a feature. So if I click here again, then I'm back into the heading widget. So that's new. Before, we would have to dive straight in and then work ourselves backwards. You can always unselect everything if you just tap outside of the canvas. That will just select the page, which is a new feature of TypeLoft 2. So again, here I have the page. If I click once, you can see I'll have the layer selected. If I click one more time, I drill into the heading. What's also new is at the very bottom, you can see we kind of have a hierarchy. So this is the heading, which is inside the layer, which is inside the page. Does this show up on the screen? It does. Okay, perfect. Cool. So that's new. What else is new? A big change that we have made is the way that you can control spacing. So as you can see here, when I've selected the layer, I have these arrows, and all I need to do is I can just click and drag up and down, which will adjust the spacing. So that is pretty cool. I can do the same for left and right, just to move things in. And this is for every widget or every element. So that was the layer. I could drill in, and I could do the same for the heading. If I wanted to move that over a little bit, I can certainly do that. And another thing, so if you want to control the spacing, you can use Shift. Shift will give you both edges, or if you use top and bottom, it'll give you the same distance. You can also use the command key or the control key if you are on a Windows machine, and that will control all 4 spaces. So I'll just fix this back again. This is really, in the old editor or type-loft 1, you had to play around with values that you had over here in your attributes panel. So this hopefully makes it a lot easier and faster to kind of control where you lay out your widgets. And of course, everything is still responsive. So if you go on the phone, you'll see that it rearranges. We'll see a little bit better on another page. All right, what else is new? So this page is actually a widget. So currently it has a little bit of typography. So you can currently select the default color for every element on the page and also the font. This will be built out, so we'll have more control over headings 1 through 5. So you can kind of give each heading a setting. And we'll add on to this as we get feedback from you guys. So for example, let's say I change my mind. I want all this text to be red. I can just change it one place here, and then all of the text is red. If I want to drill in, and let's say I want to override this color here, I can select it. And this is also new from the old editor. If you selected text, you'd have this little drop down, which was the fonts and colors. Now that is in the top section, similar to most other apps. So here I can select font color. I'm going to give this one a blue, close that out, and then I'll have a blue here. Now, important to note, if I go back here, so every time I click outside the canvas, I just get the page. I can, of course, always select the page at the bottom left. If I want to reset this, I can certainly go to the text color and just click this little X, and I'll reset it all. But you'll notice that Wander is still in blue, and that's because it has an override. So I was in on the canvas, and I gave this a specific blue color. So whatever you change on the page, it won't override any settings that you have given individual elements. If you want to get rid of the blue, you can select the heading. If you hover over the font color, you can see this will reset it to the default font color. So if I just click that once, we're back in black, and then it will again be under control of the page settings. Apart from that, slightly other changes. Sharing stopped. Try again. Share my screen again. There we go. That was the first little glitch of this new. Unexpected. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. This is. We will try one more time. This time I will just try and share the whole session here, just to see if that makes a difference. And we should be back.
Yep.
Okay, great. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a new webinar software that we're trying out first time today. So thank you very much for bearing with us on that. Yeah, so for heading, every time you can select a widget, you can actually control both the font and the size. You don't need to actually select the text. So if I wanted to change everything in here, I can just select the heading, and I could change this to a heading 1. It will change all the text in that heading. So that's also slightly updated. And what else do we have? We have a new little icon here. So for sending feedback, this will work if you are not using an ad blocker. If you come across a bug or if you have suggestions or anything, you can just click that little icon and start a new conversation with our team to let us know your thoughts. You can also go full screen, and you can save the page and exit the editor. So that's kind of standard. We have that as well. One other thing that is new is you can now navigate to the next page by simply clicking arrow right. I'll just continue without saving. And then you go to the next page. And of course, you can go back to the first page. So this is personally, for me, a huge improvement, where before we had to go back to pages, select the page, and it would load. So again, making it a little bit faster to navigate between pages. Nice. Good. And again, of course, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them in chat or unmute yourself and speak out loud. You are more than welcome to interrupt. I would totally appreciate that. It's always good if we have a conversation. Otherwise, I will just continue here. So a couple of things that we have changed as well when it comes to things that you can do. So on this page, I have a layer. It has a background image. The old editor, it was kind of difficult to get parallax to work. So we have changed that now. You can simply toggle it on and off. And let's see how well this looks on the screen share. Oh, it's very...
Updating quite slow.
Yeah, so we just see the screen is updating very slowly, but you will see that the image slightly moves up and down when I use this effect. So again, parallax, you just turn that on and off. Another thing that we have with the layer widget is you now have the option to set it full height. And this would be the full height of the device screen. So if I click that on, you'll see that it expands to fill out the entire screen of the device that is selected. Now, one quick thing to notice with this is if I go on landscape for the phone, you'll see that it actually extends more than the screen height. And that is simply because of this massive spacing that we have made. So if I change that back here, make this a little smaller. There we go. Now you can see that if I scroll, oops, I think I changed the wrong thing here. Right, we have this fancy little undo button, so I'm just going to click that a few times. And it looks like we have an issue. We'll wait with submitting that. Let me see if I need to share my screen again. Oh, we're still live? Yeah, okay, we're still live. Right. So let's see here. Go back to the full screen here. What I wanted to show now was that if you wanted to actually have this kind of centered, it's very difficult to achieve that traditionally by going through the different device screen sizes that you have. You can see it changes quite a bit. So what we've also added is a option. Right now it's named Flex. We'll probably come up with a better name for that. But think of it as centering horizontally and vertically everything in the layer widget. So if I turn that on, you'll see now that everything is neatly centered horizontally and vertically. So again, if I go to the phone, it's in the middle, tablet landscape in the middle. All right. Let's go back to the tablet here. Again, with the parallax, before that was only available for layers, but now actually if you just have an image that you have added, so I'm drilling into the image here. Oh, this is actually a layer. So this is a little bit of cheat, but again, you can just turn that on very simply. Let's see if we have an image further down here, or is this also a layer? This is also a layer. I am just going to get rid of that and show you the new media library. So when you open this, new window pops up. So this is the new media library. And in here at first, it will be blank. Also, if you had assets in your type of 1 media library, they won't show here yet. Again, I think more people join. So just again, as a reminder, this is still in beta. We will be rolling it out for everyone soon. If you want to get started playing around with Type of 2, we'll certainly invite you all on the call to access it. But just know that it is in beta, and as we just saw 5 minutes ago, there will be a few tweaks that we still need to iron out. So image library, I wanted to add an image. Now for me personally, there's a default view for this one where it just boxes them all in the same size. This little icon here will actually fold them out so you can see the dimensions a little bit easier on the images. So I'm going to take our trusted MagLoft. I'm just going to click and hold, and you can see the image library disappears. And now I can drop this right in the middle updates, thank you, here. And I get my image. And now that I think of it, this probably wasn't the best image, but what you'll notice that's new for images is we also have the parallax option in the left. I can just turn that on. And if I scroll, slides, parallax, it is very hard to see. I do apologize for that. But you'll see it much clearer when you get into the editor. So again, just a very easy way to add a subtle but very cool effect. Now, YouTube has changed slightly as well, the YouTube widgets. Now you can just copy and paste a URL and we will get that in. I'll just actually quickly go to YouTube here. You'll see that, and we're going to grab the second option here. Quickly pause it. Just going to grab the URL, go back into the editor, paste that in here, and you'll see that this will update right away. We have an option for autoplay and show controls as well. So before you had to actually just get the ID, now you can use the entire URL. So we've made that a little bit easier as well. Okay, there is a few other things that I want to show, but I am so excited about this new feature that the team has just come up with, or not up with, something we've been working on for a while. Effects. So now actually you can add subtle effects to literally every widget that you have and that you're working with. So for example, if I want to add an effect to this layer widget and that has an image and some titles, I can go down here to effects and I can click add effect. And as soon as I click that, you'll see that it already applies an effect. I'm not sure how visible that was, but I'll show you how it is. So here is one effect. It's move for 0.6 seconds. If I click this, it will open up. And I can change the duration and the delay for that particular effect. If I don't want this move effect, I can just click here to disable it. Because what I want is a fade effect. I'll click here to enable that. I'll change the duration to, let's make it 2 seconds, so that maybe it will show on the screen. And every time you change something, you can click this little play icon, and it should show you on the screen what happens. So hopefully that didn't show anything, did it? I'll try once more. I'm looking at, Toby has his screen here as well, and it didn't look like it actually showed anything. So that's a little bit of a shame. Shall I make it longer?
You should maybe ask someone else in the team if it's updating slowly.
Or anyone else on the call, do you see any effect when I click the play button here? Ah, here we go. Okay, so I changed the duration to 4 seconds. And that kind of fades in. There are no questions so far yet. The screen, oh, okay, that's good. We should be good. And you can, of course, stack these effects as well. Now, this is probably not going to be the most desirable of effects, but if I choose to also rotate, I can rotate it clockwise, 360 degrees. And if I play that clip, yes, that's one way to make people dizzy. But it is just as a example. So we're really excited about these effects. Currently, there are 4 effects to choose from: fade, move, rotate, and flip. We're, of course, very curious to hear what you guys think of these and any other suggestions that you have for effects. Now, one thing to note is that these typically will trigger when they become visible. So for example, let's say I want to fade in this video when readers scroll down to the part. So I'll add an effect again. I will deselect move, we'll enable fade, and again we'll give it 4 seconds just so that people on the live can also get to see it. So now if I scroll back up, the video is out of view, but as soon as I scroll down, you'll see that it fades in. So it's a very cool way to just add a little bit of interactivity. I could also move it in if I wanted to left to right, or actually from bottom to top maybe. Let's try that. 4 seconds again. Scroll back out, it disappears. And when I scroll down, it kind of fades in, yeah. Obviously, this is something to play around with and have some fun with. But all these small subtle effects really give the feeling of that this is a digital, interactive, and more responsive magazine compared to, say, a PDF or a static page. Cool. There's a couple of other things that we could show, but they work very similar to the existing editor. I'll just save this page and I'll create a new page. One thing that we're also working on is a lot of additional page templates that we will add in so that there's a lot more to choose from. Oh, sharing stopped again. Yes, okay. I apologize. We will share this one more time. And hopefully.
No, just to see if it had.
Oh, okay. All right. So can I get someone from the team maybe just to acknowledge that this is being shared? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm just going to go ahead and click create a blank page. I'll create something really quick here. What we'll do is we will drag in widgets. So the widgets haven't changed that much. It's still the same amount that are here. We're going to drag in a heading. And also one of the things that actually changed with headings is you have something as a background color. Before, what we really had to do was use a layer and use that as a background color. Now we have this built into most of the widgets. So I can give it a background color. I can, again, I'll use shift here to change the same height and bottom. I'm just dragging. Actually, blue is a terrible background color because we don't see our arrows. So we'll change that to green. It's also not great. We'll change it to red. A slightly lighter red. There we go. Now we can see the arrows here. So again, shift is top and bottom, or left and right. If I do control or command, I'm doing all 4 sides. Let me just get that here. Article. And then I will drag in an image. Just place that below. And then we will go ahead with our text. We'll place that below as well. And this is just a placeholder text. Oh, my command key fell off. Apologies, this is a technical glitch. My keyboard key just fell off, but I think we're good. So this is just a text widget with some placeholder text, and what you can do is you can clone this. You could also do that in the old editor. So I'll do that 3 times. You can see it just creates a copy below. What is new in the editor is if I take this text, and actually let me just undo that because now I see that I have the text right at the edge. So I didn't want that. I'll undo that a few times, and I'll just quickly give this some spacing. There we go. Now that I have it the way I want it, I can clone it again. And what I can do is, of course, just as the old editor, I can move this around if I wanted to put it above and or below another widget. But what is new, and which is really, really cool, is that I can also drag this now to the right or to the left of another widget. So if I drag it to the right, see that it actually creates what we used to have as a column widget. we still have the column widget, but we just change the way that you actually create these. So before you'd have to decide how many columns, the spacing and all that. But now you can actually just take this, drag it in and say, no, I want to have 3 columns. So this is something that we think is really cool. Very, very curious to hear how you guys work with it. I can take this out and bring it below again. So I have 2 columns and a column below. This also works with images. If I take this image here and I want to drag it in, I could drag it to the right and it will stack to the right of my 2 columns. So this is something that we think is very exciting. Let's just give it a heading here below as well. That is cool. I think that covers all of the things that we have changed. Is there anything else that we should show?
Maybe the blocks.
Yes, yes. Oh, there is actually one thing that is new. Now, okay, so for that, let's say I really like, for whatever reason, I really like 2 columns of text and an image. So with that, I can save that as a content block. So I can just click this little icon here, save as block. And we'll do 3 column. This is just an internal name, 3 column image, right? And I can save that selection. So what happens is if I go, I'll just save the page. I go to another page or another issue. I can now reuse that block. There's the nice fade in. Let's say I want to have it below here. So I can go to my blocks section. And I'll scroll to the bottom. So new blocks are added at the very bottom. You can see you have 3 column image right. There will be a thumbnail as well. If I click and drag that in, just scroll to the bottom here, let it go. You can see I now reuse the text, the 3 columns and the image. We could do this in the old editor as well, but we just made it a little bit easier and keep the controls here close to where your mouse is. What is new though, is you can now, let's say you really like this page layout and you know that you want to reuse it. If you make sure that you have the entire page selected, either by clicking in the blank or selecting page down here. If you save this as a widget or as a block, you will actually save it as a page template. So this is just Nick's awesome page template. I'll go ahead and I'll save this up. Created, since I've created a block. Now if I am to go and create a new page, you can see that I have Nick's awesome page template, and I can use this across issues and even publications.
Yeah.
So this is really fantastic. This is another way that allows you guys to create standardized content, or if you have a really complex page and you reuse it over and over, you can simply just create it as a page template. I guess I should just save that first and continue. And then you have an exact copy of that page with effects and everything baked in. So that's new. You can now save page templates and keep it for reuse. So we covered the media. There is another smaller add-on as well. If we go to widgets and to just have a play around with the slider, we know that there's it's not 100% reliable yet, but it's very, very close. You drag in the slider, and then you have an option here to add slides. So if I just click here once to edit, do let me know if the screen sharing stops at any time. Then I can select images that I want to use for a slider. So I can select 1, 2, 3 images, and then I can just click confirm. And that will then automatically add them into the slider widget, which is obviously swipeable on screen and looks pretty good. So one thing to mention with these is if you use it like this, the easiest way is if you have images that are at the same dimension, so width and height. Otherwise, you see that it jumps around a bit. All right, so that's media library. It's our widgets. Nothing much has changed here in terms of available widgets. We're still very, very open to suggestions for widgets that you really could use or would love to see. Blocks and pages. You can, of course, always move the page order around by just clicking and dragging. And that is pretty much it. Now, are there any questions or anything that you would like me to try and do, or something that you've tried in the old editor, you want to see if it works in the new one, or anything else?
This is James. I have a couple questions.
Awesome. Go ahead, James.
Is there a way to have a grid or rulers across all pages? Some way to standardize the layout based off of like a common margin?
Oh, that's a good idea. Actually, it would be something. So there isn't an option like that today. I mean, the outline will only just give you the outline of the grids, but
Sure.
it's something that we've discussed internally, because with responsive design, you know, by default, a page is kind of split in 12 columns. They're invisible
Okay.
here. But that could be something that we could look into. But apart from that, there are no real guides in terms of snapping in width.
There is the
Sure.
setting, which is a grid-based one. It goes 8 pixels a second.
Yeah,
That's with that.
yeah. Oh, but are we actually working on? I think we're working on showing the number, right?
Yep.
So currently, you don't actually see what the width is,
Right.
but soon I do believe we'll show a number in pixels.
Yeah.
So then you can just always. I mean, it's not super easy to see if these are exactly the same width. So that number will definitely help with that.
Sure. Can you show that view in a vertical phone view? Okay, it goes to one column. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you can still control that if you go back to the tablet. So you can we still have the columns widget. And with that, there are a couple of, this option here to collapse columns. So you have
Got
two options, phone or never.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah, we do have some ideas on the drawing board on how you can control this a little bit better, because maybe you want it to collapse on phone portrait, but not, or phone that, like, you know, being able to control it a little bit more than just phone, having tablet, portrait, like kind of like we have up here. But that's a little bit on the drawing board still.
Sure. Okay. And when you were dragging those columns over to make the 3-column block,
Yeah.
Does the text automatically flow between those columns, or are they independent?
That is such a great question. Currently, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the more challenging aspects of responsive design, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I do believe we have some experiments running. It's been a while since we resurfaced them, but it is actually a question that we get once in a while, because it's nice to have still columns aligned in height. So
Right. Yeah.
we totally understand that.
End up having to like copy edit to make the layout line up.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
I prefer to be able to grab the bottom edge of both and just slide it up until they're both about the right. You know, you get what you need to flow from one into two.
Yeah.
To kind of, but I understand how that could be a challenge. So if that goes to phone view and it's set to collapse, those will just stack with the MagLoft logo at the bottom.
That's correct. If we go to the phone, you'll see that they're there. Yeah. So, and this is a good example of maybe sometimes you don't always want that. Like if you use this for social media icons or other kind of icons, or even navigation, you can certainly say never. And then when I go to the phone, yeah. So not the best of examples, but then they won't collapse.
Okay. Next one is this, once it's completed, is there a way to export and I think the answer is yes, but like some sort of universal format to where I'm able to save my work offline, or does it live entirely within the editor?
That's another good question. So we've played around with the idea of having like an application that you could install on the desktop, which would then connect to your MagLoft account and kind of download your assets and your content and store that offline. It's something that we've thought about, but it's not currently on the drawing board.
Okay.
What is possible today, so when you pack the issue and you download it, the same structure that we save in the issue as HTML is also the same one that we use in the editor. So that is fail-safe copy. It would more be in the future that we allow you to re-import it then, for example, if the issue gets lost.
Right. So currently, yeah, even if I were to export it as the HTML, I don't have a good way to then just reload it completely.
Right.
Back. Okay.
Yeah. If this is like a backup concern, then we run daily backups and store them for a long period of time. So if anything should happen, we can always help with going back in time.
Sure. Okay. Is there anything like master pages? If I wanted to just set like overall, I work with InDesign, so I'm kind of coming from that direction.
Yeah.
But to where like we have dog ears and things that remain in corners, page numbers, that's all typically done on a master page. I know you can do page templates, but is there a way to over an entire issue to control things like master elements?
Yeah, we've definitely discussed this as well. I'm not, maybe Toby, you can fill in on where we are on that, because I know it's still very early days.
We have it. So we have an item in our backlog. You remember when Nick showed you how to create a custom block? The idea that we have is that you have an option to save this block as what we would call a shared block. So whenever you insert that block on another page, then it would always synchronize. So if you update that special block on the first page, then it would also update on all the other pages where you have the block.
Right. I mean, I guess if I were to do it, I would probably go through and create a whole issue with just unopened blocks and create an entire template issue and save that to then be reused. I can do that, right? Where I can just duplicate an entire issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. The fonts that are used, are they pulling from a particular library like Google's web fonts, or where does that come from, the selection of fonts?
Yep, you're spot on. So Google fonts, but we have the ability to add any fonts, specific fonts that you use. You just got to reach out to our team, and then we can add them to your account.
Right. And then just a couple other comments. The way in the media library and the widgets and things that the newest stuff shows up at the bottom creates a lot of work, especially when you have a lot of things in there. I would prefer if new stuff showed at the top. So that then the most recent stuff you've been using is there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up that every single time you have to scroll all the way to the bottom.
Definitely.
So I don't know if that would seem simple to me, but the slider capability, parallax, I think are cool features. The effects, I agree, like the rotate and stuff might be a little heavy-handed, but to have that to me is the advantage. Like in my mind, it's what will make me design with this instead of InDesign, and you have your work cut out for you because you're reinventing the wheel from a page layout standpoint. I mean, Publisher, there's tons of them that have already solved it so to me, and I've suggested it before, but an InDesign plugin that can do some of this or connect to some of these effects where I can set it in InDesign, export the folio, and it comes in and still has the similar capability. Right now, I'd be more comfortable building it in InDesign and bringing it over, knowing that I kind of have my offline, and then all the page layout and stuff that I'm already familiar with.
Yeah,
I can go straight to using the new effects. In this case, while it's not complicated, it's forcing me to say, well, here's your new software. You're not using InDesign anymore.
Yeah.
And so then understanding the struggles for what you guys are building, but it's like I'm going back to an InDesign version 0.5 in terms of my layout capabilities. So it's tough to say this is the right answer, but I'm torn because I want to have the effects. I want to have a little bit more of a true digital magazine.
Definitely.
That just kind of gives you kind of some background. I
No,
think my only other.
if I can just quickly comment
Sure.
on that, we totally hear you, know, and we know that this venture of creating a editor is such a great balance between having something that is easy and fast to use versus complex and feature rich. And we're really trying to get a good balance in here as well. And obviously, one of the major goals is that we could get someone like you to say, all right, I'm done with InDesign. This tool is awesome. It does exactly what I need. And it's helping me do it a lot faster in a responsive content.
Right.
But just to add to that, we obviously realize that there are many users out there that are so familiar with InDesign and all the advanced things that it can do. We do actually have a converter in place where you could upload, you could literally upload a folio file from InDesign, and we will convert that to HTML, and
Great.
it will be like a one-to-one match.
Okay. And what is there a particular palette or settings that's going to read from, like liquid layout or something else? Like, is there a way for me to include a parallax effect? There have been other offerings for digital magazines in the past where they had their own palette, or you use the InDesign palette, but they had strict rules about what will actually be interpreted once it's imported. So that would be my question: is some of the special effects. If I could add any of those or build a slider in InDesign and have it work, that would be a huge step forward in terms of offering more and more interactivity.
Yeah.
So what we do support is all the interactive features that are on board with InDesign itself, with the used to be the DPS tools. Now it's I think it's still. So those all of them work in our HTML converter.
Okay, cool.
It works for a slider. And I think for parallax, if it reacts to the scroll position, I think you'd need to use a HTML solution for that, which you could use in InDesign. So that specific one is a little bit tricky. But we've seen sliders, we've seen hotspots that change the page and what appears. So that's also supported in our converter.
Okay, that's great.
I think just one last note on that. If you go that route, we won't be able to then load that content into the editor.
Right. It'll be sort of like a PDF. It's just purely loaded up.
Yeah, and if you need to make a change, then you got to go back to InDesign, export it, re-upload it.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I guess my only other comment, and this is a far more general, less specific to the editor, is with the new dashboard, the progress bar is what would be the best way to opt out or to have that automatically move to 100 or something? To me, as somebody who's sort of an inbox zero sort of person, there's things on there that I am not gonna try, at least at this stage. Like the things that I would have to do just to get it to 100 to complete it. It's like I'm stuck in the middle of onboarding and I'm a multi-year customer.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like, man, what is all this? And I understand it for somebody new, but and so one advice was to go ahead and just click through the stuff and it'll get you the points. And I did that in some cases, but like previewing the mobile app, which we do all the time. And I might have that wrong, but something like that, to where I have done it, and it still doesn't show as shown. So I would just like it to go away. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm in it, and we have our way that works, and I'm not like stodgy in the way I'm just never going to try something, but I don't need to go through the steps to build an HTML issue. I'm already in the middle of a publishing calendar. It's just not something I'm going to do. So
makes sense. So the dashboard should be account bound. So if it's done once in the account, it should be done always. Also, if you have multiple publications that you manage.
Sure.
If it doesn't complete, then we definitely want to hear about it, but it should. But we can obviously go in and just complete it for you and have it all kind of done.
All right. Sorry for that one. That was kind of
no, absolutely. It's good feedback. It's still fairly new, and we're trying to find the best way to help new users on board without throwing too much at them and becoming annoyed like yourself.
Sure. What I expected was to be more of like an overlay where it forces me to click all the stuff in the left navigation just to see it, and here's where this lives now, and like the little, we've changed analytics and now it's better and all this stuff. That to me is what was missing. Like one day it was totally different, and it's like, whoa, what the heck just happened here? And there's some new stuff, some different stuff, and then everything related to onboarding was more about like somebody who's a total beginner rather than here's where we put all the stuff that you're used to. So but again, just personal.
It's good. It's good feedback.
Otherwise I think you're on the right track.
That's great. Awesome. Yeah. Lots of things. Yeah, there's lots of things in the pipeline as well, and we will be getting better at sharing what we're doing and when new things will be coming out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And just as we have our feedback.magloft.com, and I'd love to encourage you, if you have any suggestions or if you think any of these other suggestions are cool, you can just go, you can stick them in upvote. I'm sure you're already very
yeah, I got a few on there.
Yeah.
they only have a couple votes, but I have a couple.
Yeah. All right, we got to do some lobbying then. And we'll promote this once or twice a month to all MagLoft users to kind of get them in there again and kind of see what.
Sure, I think that's great. I think that's a great idea. And speaking of the dates for release, that would be huge. I think especially if somebody were committed to the new editor and then new stuff is rolling out. I mean, even in the case of like WordPress plugins and things, there's a certain valid reason to not upgrade right away, to like wait and see if you're in the middle of something. So that's the one thing that worries me about going all in on this is, especially when it's released as sort of a beta and admittedly has some stuff to be worked on and things like that. That's where it's tough, because that can be a total wrench in what's a set schedule already. So it's almost like I want to watch it and say, don't upgrade my account. And then once we get into our winter, then I'm ready to upgrade and let's start building these. When stuff happens unpredictably, it can be really disruptive.
Yeah, totally understand. Thank you very much for sharing that. Definitely.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thanks, James. Good. Is there anyone else or any other questions? Otherwise, I think we will call it a live show for about 45 minutes, and we'll be doing more of these. So if there's anything that you missed or you want to see it again, just keep an eye out on the schedule that we'll be pushing out. And we'll be doing more things. So here we covered the editor. There's so many other things that we can cover on MagLoft in general. So if you have any suggestions or ideas for a live show that you'd like to see us going in depth with some of the aspects of MagLoft, do let us know. We'd love to hear that from you. Otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you for showing up, and hope to speak to you all again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.